Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Our guest today is Donna Cowan. Donna is the creator of the Superhero School series. The message of this series is about the importance of giving and sharing your gifts with the world. Donna's first two wonderful and critically acclaimed children's books are With the Courage of a Mouse and With the Curiosity of a Cat. As a grandmother, Donna enjoys reading and spinning tales for children, sparking the imagination of a child so that they may become lifelong readers, adventurers, and writers is her main goal. Each book in the series encourages positive attributes, acceptance, critical thinking, and inner strength. And it's also important to know Donna is also a Mom's Choice Award winner and a Reader's Favorite Award winner for With the Courage of a Mouse. Donna, is so pleasurable to have you on the Success Insight podcast.
Well, thank you. I am so excited to be with you today. I just love getting out to talk to everybody. It's like, this day and time, we're kind of encapsulated at home. And this is a wonderful way for me to get out there and talk to my fans and find new ones.
I have to say, we could talk a little bit about this. We're in the middle of this COVID pandemic, and especially with kids and the effect that being home and being away from their friends, and it's got to be hard on them. It's heaven knows it's probably hard on the parents, even the grandparents, whether they can see the kids or not, whether they can read, spoil, all the things grandparents do with their grandchildren. And I'd be curious, maybe as we get into the podcast, to talk a little bit about how your books could serve to be a kind of a gateway or a path for them to really come out of this life that they're living right now better. And because your books, Courage of a Mouse and With the Curiosity of a Cat, there's a lot going on there in the story. So we've got a lot to talk about today. I hope you have time.
Oh, I have lots of time, and I absolutely love this idea. And at the core of the Superhero School series, it is about trying. It is about putting yourself out there, embracing new things, finding new adventures, and being okay when you don't get it right maybe the first time. Because in life, we primarily get second chances, third chances, fourth chances to get it right. And it is about the journey of finding those tools and finding that we already have those answers. We just need to discover them for ourselves.
Fantastic. And I would love if you could share with our listeners too a little bit about your background, because you don't just show up and become a critically acclaimed children's book author. There's a little bit of a journey here. So, you're a grandmother. We don't have to go through year after year, but give us kind of the highlights of how you got to become this children's book author.
Well, it started for me pretty young. I, was the youngest child of a very large family, and I often felt a little bit overlooked and kind of hidden corners. And I found friends in books. That was my playmates growing up. And of course, you run out of reading material very quickly. So I took the characters out of these books and created new adventures for them, new situations for them, changed who it was they were dealing with and the problems they were dealing with. And my mom absolutely laughs about it. She talks about me changing Cinderella into a secretary that had an evil boss instead of an evil stepmother. She loved that I was able to try and pull these characters into the everyday life. Now, as life goes on, things get in the way, and it's like you don't always get to pursue your passions. I got a job, I raised a family, and became a grandmother. And I continued to write, but I really never felt like I was good enough or that I had anything really relevant to say until I got to my grandkids. And I started with telling them stories at night at bedtime, make up stories for them. And my granddaughter came to me one night and she was asking me about my cats. I have several. She wanted to know what I thought they did at night when they were gone. And I couldn't really answer her. But a few days later, I came up with this story about she was a superhero and that she was going out at night to save her animal friends. They loved the story. They asked for it repeatedly. And then they really wanted me to write it down because they wanted to share it with their friends. So we began writing the story and quickly realized that there was so much backstory about how Kat became a superhero that we had to go all the way back to the beginning and start with how she became a superhero. And thus the Superhero School series was born. And of course, Kat has some problems when she starts out. She's really shy. She's really scared. And so it takes Simon Cheddar, a mouse with a plan and some ingenuity and a lot of courage, to teach her how to find her gifts.
I loved the concept, and I especially love, by the way, to be very honest with you, in the spirit of full disclosure, I don't mind cats. I probably am more of a dog person. My nephew has 4 legs and lots of fur. He comes to visit for a week and he stays for 6 months. When I was preparing for the podcast and reading the books, and by the way, your publicist just did a wonderful job of providing me a lot of the background material. So I have to thank him. You should thank him as well. But as I was reading this story, I loved Simon, Simon Cheddar. And I love the fact that he stored stuff in his pocket. There was something about that, one pocket is for this, the other pocket's for this. And he always had something available. And that was pretty amazing. And just the backstory about how these two met. As you started to evolve these stories, how did you begin to bring in other characters? Like, I know there's a third book coming up and we'll talk more about that, but how did you begin to bring in the other characters into the story and include them as a part of this superhero school?
Well, that was the difficult part for writing this series, is I really wanted it to have an underlying theme, but I also wanted it to have a story in each book. And so again, I look to my grandchildren and I'm looking at the problems and challenges that they face growing up on a daily basis, where they are in situations where they don't really know the answer. They don't necessarily know the right thing to do or where to find the answers. So this was part of the reasoning behind the adventures that we have for Kat and Simon and the other students at the superhero school. Patty the pig and Freddie Flickerson the frog are kind of like Kat and Simon's other friends. They're part of their team, and they represent different personalities of my grandchildren in different parts, but they mostly represent an idea of what most children start from, where they begin from. We have Kat that begins from very meager beginnings. She was homeless and she's a little bit afraid. And we have Simon, who has lost his parents, but he has a very stable background. And then we have Patty, who's pretty normal. She has all the, the parents in the home and everything that's fine. And then we have Freddie, that he has a good home and everything like that, but he has challenges because of his size. And so I wanted to create characters that are relatable to children so that they can see themselves in each one of the characters. They are looking at the issues that they're facing and how they're meeting those challenges. And that was purposeful in using animals, because I want them to be able to see themselves. I don't want them to pick up the book and go, well, that's not me, or that's not my culture, or that's not my idea of what I look like. A lot of that gets taken away, and they can just relate to how they act and how they interact and how they learn. And that is a big leap forward for kids in stories.
I'm curious, as you're just providing us the really great description of the framework for the book and the stories, I think it's helpful for our listeners to know this is a children's book series. This is not your typical children's book where you have 42 pages and there's 4 short lines of text. Maybe it rhymes, maybe it doesn't. A nice picture, and you go on to the next page. And mom and dad or grandma can read the book to their children in 10 minutes and you're done. These are long books with a very substantive story. So I think our listeners would like to know, what is the age range for these stories?
Well, my books are rated for what they consider middle grade, which is upper elementary from 3rd through 6th grade, or 7 to 12 years of age. They are for readers that have passed what is typically the picture books, which is primarily pictures with words, and they're learning to read at this point. By the time they hit the 3rd grade, they do want longer stories. They do want more substance to the book. These are chapter books. We specifically made the chapters a 12 to 15 minute read so that they do feel progress through the book. It is a longer story, but we did kind of break with tradition and add colorful illustrations at the beginning of each chapter to kind of help them visualize, because we did see a little bit of disconnect with students moving out of the picture books into the longer books without any aid or help in the form of illustrations or drawings. So we chose to go ahead and put that in there. It is a quick read. It is a fast-paced adventure. So I think any child that can read will find no difficulty in getting through it. But also, I've had parents of younger kids that are reading it either with them or to them. Again, we did rate the chapters at about a 12 to 15 minute read. So they work great to get through a chapter maybe each night.
Right. The question I have is, you were using the word we, and that begs a question is, what kind of mentoring, coaching, aid, how did you bring in, I don't know, maybe you didn't do it or did, experts to help you take this idea, these stories that you were creating in your mind, writing them on a piece of paper, but then assembling it so that parents, grandparents are going to want to consume these books with their kids? What kind of aid did you get to make this happen?
Well, I went directly to the experts, which, I met with teachers and librarians first to get an idea of what is available and what is wanted in the market. And then I met with parents and kids of this age group to ask them why they would choose a book, what they wanted to see in a book, and what would make them want to continue reading a book. And, it took me 2 years of studying and talking with parents, talking with kids, talking with educators and grandparents to see what it was that they wanted. And I really wanted to style the book because my ultimate job is to get readers to read the story, and it's, that is my primary reason for writing these books. It's not about acclaim. It's not about how many books I sell. It is literally to get our kids reading and enjoying reading, because I think that you can open a book and go anywhere you want. And that's such a lovely thing. And it builds imagination. And I think imagination is so tied to creativity and inventiveness and problem solving in the future that I think it's very important. And so I really want to make it so there are no stumbling blocks between what I offer to the kids of this age group and getting them to consume it.
Very interesting. Another point that you made, and it came in via the where a lot of stuff comes. It's like all of a sudden this door opens. It's like, oh, okay. You were describing, the personalities of the characters to a certain extent. And you shared that there were elements of perhaps like your grandchildren within the characters. We have, as a coach and someone who works with assessment tools, looking at personality and behaviors, we have different styles. There's a particular assessment that I use in my work called the DISC, dominance, influence, steadiness, conscientious. And one variation of the story is that it was turned into a book using birds. You had the eagle, who was the dominant personality, very, powerful, do this, do this, do this. You had I forget the let's just say it was the parrot, all over the place, loud, center of attention. You had the dove, just wanting to make people happy. And then you had the owl, who that was me, very methodical process. And so I was wondering, as you started to create the characters in perhaps elements of your grandchildren, other children that you've met, how did you begin to organize the behaviors? What was the uniqueness, say, about Simon, Cheddar, or Cat, or the Patty or Freddie? What were some of the elements that you started to organize what their personalities were? I was curious about that.
Well, I can kind of go down the list for you. So for Kat, I really wanted her to be very unsure. I wanted her to be a shy, kind of introverted character where she questions everything. She trusts nothing at face value. She must figure out for herself whether or not it's worthy. That was the impetus for her personality. Now, there comes other things into that, and it's evolving and changing throughout the series as she learns and becomes a bigger, better cat. And then we have Simon. I wanted Simon to be maybe a little impulsive. He's almost bigger than life. He feels like he has the answers. He feels like he has life by the tail. He's got it all figured out. And what he doesn't have figured out, he's got in his pockets. And, he is ingenious. And those are wonderful traits. But what we find out as he's dealing with Kat is that maybe he's a little too impulsive and he needs to learn a few things from Kat about being methodical, about thinking things through and thinking beyond that second when he just has a flash of inspiration and seeing a little further down the road. So this is why we have, Kat and Simon making such a great partnership, is because they bring to the table the things that the other one is missing.
I was just thinking about that. So right now, for our listeners, I have a little notepad down next to me and I'm drawing some pictures and I'm starting to draw the disc map that I use. And I was, as you were describing that, they are the exact opposite. And rather than butting heads, which is quite possible if we don't understand our preference and understand how to recognize someone else, we can butt heads. But if we learn to realize, here's what I bring to the table, here's my counterpart, partner, etc. Here's who they are. This is what they bring to the table. They can offer something in the relationship that I don't have. Doesn't mean I can't learn it, but I can certainly use them as my guide, my mentor, to develop perhaps something that I don't have. So I love the fact that they're opposite, but they're working together.
Right. And then we go on to round out the team with Patty and Freddie. Now, Patty is very tech savvy. She has the ability to deal with all kinds of electronics and items out there. In the book, we talk about she's able to make them speak her language. And I like that about Patty because she often is the voice of reason. She is the one that sees that there is a point A to point B to point C, and she tries to guide the team to be strategic in solving their problems or puzzles or mysteries or whatever it is that they're dealing with. And then we have Freddie. Freddie has his own challenges in life. He's very small, he's very green, and he kind of gets bullied a little bit. But beyond that, at his core, Freddie is a caregiver, and he feels like his job is to make sure the rest of the team members have everything that they need. We see him throughout the books where he's making sure everybody has food and drink and all the supplies they need, and that everything is where it's supposed to be. He's constantly cleaning and rearranging, and we love this about Freddie. And Freddie's going to get his own book coming up in 2021. And we're excited about that. He's waited a very long time for his moment to shine, but we're going to give him one.
So I love that you have just shared this. I'm like really excited. I'm thinking, Donna, we could do some work together here because I want to offer the disc profile to you because you've just described the 4 characteristics of the disc profile. Now, you're probably going to tell me after the call, Howard, I know all about the disc. I'm an expert. So, don't burst my bubble just yet, okay? So you've got the books. First thing I'm curious about, well, the next thing I'm curious about is your grandchildren. As you were starting to craft these books and bringing in the characters, what was their reaction to them?
Well, a lot of the reactions are strange. In the beginning, they kind of look at me like I'm almost, an alien from another planet. And they're like, "You're going to do what now?" And so it's almost this disbelief. And then, they look at my age and they're like, "But Grandma, you're old." To them, I'm very, very old. And it seems very strange. But what they have learned along my path, and it's been, 5 years now, they have learned that, you're never too old to dust off those dreams. You're never too old to go for those dreams. You're never too old to learn something new, to ignite your passion and go out and share it with the world. I think of any lesson that I could teach or share with my grandchildren, that is the greatest thing that I can do. It's never too late.
I really love that you've just shared that, because there's in my show notes, which again, for our listeners, is up on my computer screen next to the video of Donna and I. There's a quote that I pulled out of the notes that completely resonated for me. And I love when I read a book that there's something in it that totally resonates for me. And it's the importance of giving and sharing your gifts with the world. I love that quote. And I have a coaching mentor that once said to us, this large group of other coaches, entrepreneurs, which boiled down to, how dare you not share your gifts with the world? And I love that because, you've taken these books, you've crafted them, there's lessons learned, there's ways to take this into the schools, which I do want to chat about. But we all have a gift. And as long, I think, as we have parents that love us and care for us and encourage us to maybe lean into some discomfort, do things we might not be comfortable doing, but knowing that, go do it, I'm here if you need me. Or siblings or grandparents or teachers is encouraging the children in a place of abundance rather than a limitation. You're never going to do this, because children, if they're introduced to what I would call a limiting belief, they can't do something, it sticks with them the rest of their life.
Right. It does. And, and here's what I have to say about that. It's a quote, and I do not know who the quote is from, but I love this quote. I have it up on my wall to remind me. What you think is ordinary about you, other people find extraordinary. People find it extraordinary that I'm able to write a book, that I'm able to talk at a level for this age, and then I'm able to, through an adventure story, bring all these life lessons. Did I know I could do that? No. But, it's all about stepping out and trusting. In book 2, Simon says, fear only has the power you allow it. And I think that kind of encapsulates it. We can't be afraid to make mistakes. We can't be afraid to step forward and find whatever our passion, our purpose, or our gifts are. It's about the process. It's about the journey, and it's your journey. It's not anybody else's. And what I do know is that you can't light a path if the flashlight's in your pocket. So take it out and shine it for the world.
I love that. I love that. As you are sharing these books, either through speaking engagements or going into the schools, how has that transformation for them, and even for you as an author, a new author, relatively new author, you have your goals, your mission for writing the book. How has the realization of the change that's taking place, how has that affected you as you're speaking and going into the schools?
Well, a lot of things we're doing a lot more things virtually, obviously, not the in-person. I had a lot of events canceled this year. But I do love going into the schools, especially for this age group. It's a little harder to reach this age group simply because they are beyond the point where parents are buying books for them and choosing them for them. They are at the age they're choosing them for themselves, but they haven't yet reached the age where they have their own buying power. So it's kind of a circuitous route that we have to use to get there. So going into the schools and talking about how I get there, how do I create these characters and why? And thinking through is what I love to bring forward. When I go talk to these groups and talk to the schools, it's not specifically always about my book. It's about the journey. It's about having something to say and presenting it in a way that other people can connect with. Because that is my job at the end of the day as an author, is to bring forward ideas and questions and then leave them with the reader for them to take on their journey. And, it's been amazing. I've had kids come up to me and talk about specific passages in the book, specific characters that they loved or that they identified with, or maybe just an idea that they hadn't considered. And that for me is a great reward. And what I love to finish most of my speeches with is talking about, as a writer, I have the greatest job in the world. I literally get to make stuff up for a living.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And, you've literally just encapsulated almost two questions that I would ask during a podcast. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
The first one was, what are your readers, the children, saying about the book? And you've just shared that. And I also like that you shared what effect this journey has had on you. And that is, you get to make up stories and create for a living. I truly love that. Now, I want to get into the book 3, and you talked about there's going to be a book 4. Before we do that, when you're not writing and researching books, I mean, obviously we're in the still COVID-19, et cetera. What do you do when you're not writing and creating?
Well, I actually do a lot of reading and, just hanging out with my family. I love to do that. I like to swim and I've got into editing and coaching and writing a little bit. But, the one thing that has been a very new passion for me during this time is I've started doing these video calls that are so easy nowadays with my grandkids. And so every night we get together on a video call and we read to each other. And I love this because it gives us that connection, even though we can't see each other and spend time together, but we can see and talk to each other and relate to each other. I'm giving them an opportunity to improve their skills. We talk about books. We talk about ideas in the books. And if they have homework or if they have some concerns about doing online learning or going back to school, it gives us that opportunity to talk. But the greatest thing is my daughters love that because it kind of gives them a break. It's, about an hour that I spend with them each night, and it gives them a break to not be on the education part of their lives, which so many of the parents are struggling with right now. It is such a big job, and then trying to work and entertain kids and stuff like that. So I'm challenging grandparents out there, embrace the technology and go read with your grandkids, even if it's over a phone call. If you don't have grandkids, you know what? There's so many kids out there that would love to adopt you as their grandmother just to have somebody to read to.
I actually think that is the most wonderful idea, because in my work, and when we do a lot of my coaching now is virtual, and the person I'm coaching has kids, they're home, and I know that they struggle to, how do I get me time? How can I do my work when I always have to be on watching? I have a coaching, she's a colleague as well as a client, fellow coach who, every day at 6:00, she reads to her grandchildren. But I love the fact, that is the most wonderful idea that you've just shared. And whether you are a grandparent or not, doesn't matter. You said there are folks out there who have kids that would just, and those kids would love to have someone sit and talk to and read. And whether it's, in fact, it's virtual, it's easy to do.
Right. And, and there's teachers out there and other people that are authors that are doing this, where they're doing a nightly kind of bedtime story or reading with their kids, where, some of these kids that don't have that opportunity of a grandparent or somebody that can step in, that they can go virtually to these things that are almost every night, some of them 3 and 4 times a day, where they can go hear a new story or they can be read to. But, as much as I value that, I think once they get a little bit older, maybe into my age range, that they really do need to stay on top of these skills, their reading skills. And, it doesn't take much to sit there and listen to a kid read and help them. And so I think it's something easy, and it solves so many issues. We have isolation and loneliness and separation anxieties and cabin fever and all these things that are going on right now. And it's this simple thing, this simple challenge can solve a lot of those.
I think that is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm curious, Donna, you mentioned, we've got to have our first 2 books, with the courage of a mouse and then with the curiosity of a cat. So we know about Simon, we know about Cat. Your book 3, I know, is coming out this year. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, book 3 is With the Passion of a Pig, and it is Patty's moment to shine. And so the class for the superhero school comes back for another class to find that their town matriarch, Mrs. Gristle, that they affectionately call Mrs. G, is missing. They don't know where she is or where she's gone, and they can't find her. So, of course, Patty steps forward with all of her skills, and she is able to triangulate her cell phone and track down the last place that they know she was, which was the portal that we found out about in book 2 that the monkeys used when they were selling the animals to the human world. And so this is where they have tracked Mrs. G. So the team gathers together to go to the portal to see what's going on. So I'm going to pick up there. And mostly it's talking about Kat and her remembering when she first came to Sweet Meadows in book 1. So Kat nodded, then followed her friends down the dirt road to Mouseville, her mind wandering back to the day she arrived. She pushed her body up from the ground. Thankfully, the dogs chasing her for the last 2 blocks were gone. She didn't know when or where she gave them the slip, but her wheezing breaths and thundering heart reminded her that she couldn't have outrun them any further. Her muscles ached from jumping, skidding, and running away from the dogs. Through yards, alleyways, and busy streets, Kat ran for her life. She needed to lay off those biscuits from the bakery dumpster. Kat couldn't afford the extra weight slowing her down. Not now. She rubbed her small, protruding belly and grinned. But those biscuits sure tasted good, she muttered to herself, then quickly slammed a paw over her mouth. Who said that? Kat turned in a slow circle, noticing all the trees, green grass, and dusty gravel surrounding her for the first time. The sharp white rocks poked and pinched her paws. When she looked down, she saw that she was walking upright on her hind legs. It should have felt strange to walk like that, but it didn't. It was easy. Normal almost. Weird. Kat froze. She definitely heard that. She could talk? Like humans? How was that possible? Kat carefully checked her head for lumps. Nope, she hadn't smacked herself silly. Maybe she'd fallen asleep and was dreaming. Or maybe she hadn't escaped those dogs after all and finally exceeded her 9 lives. Except she could feel the rocks under her paws, smell the fresh cut grass, and see the swirling dust motes that tickled her nose. That's you! Kat wasn't dead or dreaming. She was very much alive and completely lost.
Wow. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Thank you. I try really hard to bring the characters forward and give them a personality, because I think that's what draws the readers in, when they can identify with the personality of one of these characters, one of these animals, and the way they react to things. And Cat is always very suspicious.
Very good. Very good. Well, Donna, I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your no doubt busy schedule to join us on the Success Insight podcast. It's been wonderful getting to know you and learning about your story and the books and its evolution, and really just the wonderful work that you're doing, and just, the importance of sharing your gift with the world. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I so enjoy doing this. It's not always easy to fit in my schedule, but, you've made it very, very easy for me. And so I'm excited.
Fantastic. So, Donna, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where are the best places for them to go?
Well, I try to keep it easy and just send them straight to my website, which is donnasagercowan.com, and everything is there.
Fantastic. Well, we'll most definitely provide the link back to the website on our show notes, and we'll also include, some of your social sites like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because some people, that's where they got to go, as well as to the book page on Amazon. So once again, thank you for joining us on the Success Insight podcast. It's been a pleasure. And I know for myself, I'm looking forward to the continuing stories from the Superhero School series. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we have just been chatting with Donna Sager Cowan. Donna is the creator of the Superhero School series. We have been learning about Donna's journey to become a critically acclaimed children's book author, and really this the importance of helping children become readers, sparking their imagination, to become lifelong readers, adventurers, and writers in their own right, and to also discover and share their own unique strengths. So do go out to Donna's website at donnasagercowan.com, learn more about her at the book and the books, and really the continuing stories that are going to be coming up very soon. With The Passion of a Pig will be coming out in November, and the fourth book in the series with Freddie sometime in 2021. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Do let us know by commenting on it, share it with your friends. Find us on successinsightpodcast.com. That's our main webpage. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn at successinsightpodcast.com, as well as our YouTube page. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, be safe, practice social distancing, wear your mask. If you are in the grandparent age or the parent age, well, whatever age you are, get out there and read to your siblings, your neighbors, your relatives, or somebody you don't even know yet. Find ways to share the gift of reading. And I think Donna's idea, especially for grandparents, just taking the opportunity to read to their children, to give mom and dad a break, or even to give some other parents a break by reading to the children. I think how we get that done, I'm sure there's some creative ways we can within our community. So hopefully that idea will spark you to want to make a difference in that route. So once again, go out, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Success Insight podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.